Hello and welcome back to another episode of Marion County Market Updates with Miguel. So last week we were talking about the new announcement from the FHFA where they're now allowed to include VantageScore alongside or in lieu of the FICO. So what that means is FICO is kind of limited when it comes to their reporting of your background, of your credit profile. They only use revolving debt, mortgages, things of that nature. And VantageScore is actually interesting because it has other factors like rent, utility, phone bill. But something that the VantageScore has that the FICO score doesn't, that could actually hurt a lot of people, is the BNPL, or the Buy Now, Pay Later programs that have been becoming popular in the last few years. So if you've had a history of using these programs and maybe paying a little bit late, some of the programs include like Klarna, and if you've used these, the VantageScore includes these, and that could actually impact you in a negative way. So today we're going to go over the updates that we're seeing in the last 7 days, like we always do. And then we're going to talk about a couple of new articles that just came out. One that's in direct correlation of the announcement that the Fed is holding off on dropping the rates. Jerome Powell was talking about, waiting until the tariff numbers come in. Some of the tariff numbers have come in and have validated his stance. And then you have Governor Wallace, the governor of the Fed, basically in stark contradiction to Jerome Powell's sentiment on holding the rates. He's trying to push to cut the rates. So there's a little bit of fallout there as far as what's going on with the Fed. And then also some new changes we'll also discuss later in the video is there was a judge in Texas that basically ordered that creditors are allowed to look at medical debt. So that could mean a lot of people are going to see their scores affected by that. So it's something to keep your eye on. We'll definitely keep our eyes on it over here at the channel. So if you want to stay up to date, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications, subscribe, because we're trying to keep our pulse on everything going on. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into what we're seeing in the last 7 days, okay? All right, so now let's dive right into the market watch and see what's been going on the last 7 days. So right now we're seeing 241 new listings. We're seeing 30 price increases, 357 price decreases, staying along with the trend, and 158 sold. So again, we're still seeing the inventory stack up. It's going to continue to get better for the buyer if this continues. The more inventory stacks up, the more days on markets you're going to see, the more price drops you're going to see, the more seller concessions you're going to see. So the only thing we got to keep a track on the opposite end is the buyer's credit worthiness. So that's why I've been kind of keeping a track on what's been going on with the Fed, the rate cuts, all of the talks about the changes happening with the credit profiles. These are all very, very important factors to look at when you're trying to qualify. So if you need help with that, feel free to reach out. I got lenders on standby that can guide you through the process, simplify everything. And then once you're pre-approved, pre-qualified, ready to go, then I can step in, do my job, and help you find the right property at a good value. So if you want to start the process, get the ball rolling today, call or text at 754-207-2708. And if you wanted to start your home search and keep your pulse in the market, keep an eye on what's going on. If you're a homeowner and you just want to get an idea of what's going on in your area so you can get an idea of your property value, keep your finger on the pulse with my home search platform at mrod.homes for sale in Florida.com. That's MROD dot homes for the number 4 sale in Florida.com. All right. All right. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about Jerome Powell being cautious as far as doing a rate cut. Donald Trump has been calling for aggressive rate cuts to help with people being able to qualify. But, they've been trying to keep an eye on unemployment. And one of the biggest things that Jerome Powell has mentioned that he wants to wait for was the potential inflation from the tariffs. So this article just came out yesterday, and it's basically indicating that the data from June has validated Jerome Powell's pushback, and basically validating that he made a good call by not dropping rates, because inflation is starting to increase, and there are some data sets that are basically showing that the tariffs are slightly causing inflation, and the cost of the tariffs are being passed on to consumers. Here's a little quote from Stephen Juno. Today's report finally provided ample evidence that tariffs are being passed on to consumer. Core goods prices rose 0.2% over a month, and 0.3% when excluding used cars, which declined again. So basically, it's looking like, based on the data, that it's a good call for them to hold off on the rate cuts as far as the economy is concerned. But it's bad if you're waiting for that rate cut in order to justify buying a house. One good sign is that the Fed governor, Christopher Waller, apparently he's pushing against Jerome Powell to do rate cuts as early as next month. So we'll keep an eye on that. Hopefully we'll see some rate cuts soon. But at the end of the day, although it would be good for buyers, the most important thing is for the overall economy to stabilize, so that we could see some good economic future for the country. But let's look at another article real quick. All right, so let's dive into this article. This article caught my eye because I believe it was last week we were talking about the FHFA announcement that they're going to be adding the VantageScore, so that you can have a more expanded credit profile so more people could qualify. Now, based on this article, millions of Americans could see their credit scores drop because a federal judge in Texas has reversed some some CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rule, which basically barred medical debt from appearing on credit reports. And I'm actually a person that this could affect, because I have some medical debt that I haven't really taken care of, and fortunately, it didn't stand in the way of me being able to buy last year. But this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Why it matters. The credit scores of millions of Americans are weighed down by medical debt. According to the CFPB, the rule would have eliminated an estimated $49 billion in medical bills from the credit reports of about 15 million Americans. As a result of this decision, these unpaid bills will continue to weigh on Americans' creditworthiness. One expert told Newsweek that for many Americans, even a relatively small dip in their credit score could be significant. So, in one aspect, it seems like there's a lot of things happening in the background when it comes to the lenders and how they're analyzing the riskiness of borrowers. They were trying to have a more full profile so that they can qualify more people with the VantageScore. But now, if they also include the medical debt, it could be more conclusive that people don't qualify. But what do you think? I personally think that medical bills shouldn't be added on to that factor because, you know, when it comes to medical problems, it's not necessarily something that people plan for. You know, people, let's say you're paying all your bills 100% on time, and you know the way that wages are and salaries are, if you're able to do that, that's very great. But then at the same time, you're doing that consistently for 2 years, and then out of nowhere you get a medical emergency that you didn't account for, that you didn't plan for, and now you have all these medical bills and you're not able to pay, and that's somehow gonna reflect bad on you when, you know, if that medical emergency didn't pop up, your finances would have been in order. So I don't think an emergency should be used against you to apply more risk as far as the lenders are concerned. Um, but what do you think? I think that's a good topic of conversation. I personally think it's a little bit unfair, but again, I'm also biased because I have medical debt that is, you know, holding me back. So go ahead and comment below. Tell me what you think. Should medical debt reflect on a borrower's risk factor when it comes to paying back their debt? Comment below and let's start this conversation. Well, anyways, those are the things I really wanted to discuss. If you have any comments, questions, please put it down below. We'll talk about it in the next video. But other than that, that's the market updates with Miguel. Tune in next week and we'll talk about some whatever news may come up. I look forward to checking in with you next week. Take care. My night with the light when I got to the club, I was